Thanks, Suzanne. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here today. My team and I work with clients of Google's advertising products in the Irish market. Many of you are here today, which is excellent. Consumer privacy is rightly at the top of the agenda in many of our conversations. And our goal at Google is to show that privacy and effective marketing are not at odds with one another. A recent Ipsos study that we did in EMEA of just over 7,000 people confirmed that getting this balance right is pivotal and really important to the European consumer. We believe at Google, when done in the right way, we can deliver this balance and increase trust amongst consumers. Trust is, of course, the topic of today, and IAB Ireland's gold standard has been designed to help build a more trustful ecosystem. And Google is really proud to be one of the founding signatories here in Ireland. Today, we will talk to you about the development of privacy-preserving APIs, which will not rely on any form of alternative to cookies. Gabby, here with me from our Chrome partnerships team, will do just that and give you an update on the recent developments in Chrome's Privacy Sandbox initiative and the progress her team is making towards market rollout. Privacy is very much a live topic and increasingly becoming an important value of brands and publishers as they talk to their customers. At Google, our proposals and projects will continue to iterate. We're really committed to coming to this and other forums like this to keep you as up to date as you would like to be. We need and want your feedback, so please do share it with us, either with the IAB or with myself and the team directly. So over to you, Gabby.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. If you can't see me, that's probably not the worst thing in the world. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you to Suzanne and Maeve as well. So as Helma said, I'm going to give a very quick update on Privacy Sandbox. So taking a step back before we dig into the details, how did the Privacy Sandbox initiative come about and why? So if you think about today's web, it doesn't meet the privacy expectations of users, regulators, or many privacy-forward companies. Helma just mentioned the values that Irish companies are thinking about, and I know that privacy is key in that. And as you all know, this crisis of trust impacts all of us as users, businesses, and stakeholders in the web. And it's an ecosystem-wide challenge that requires an ecosystem-wide response. However, the solution isn't simple. To end cross-site tracking, the web needs to move away from third-party cookies and other covert techniques such as browser fingerprinting. However, there's also a recognition that many core web capabilities have also come to rely on these same techniques. Before moving on, I just want to clear up a common misunderstanding of what Privacy Sandbox is. A lot of people think of Privacy Sandbox as this place to experiment, but in engineering terms, it means it's a protected environment. So the Privacy Sandbox refers to the principle that your information should be protected from cross-site tracking as you move around the web. And Privacy Sandbox proposals are ideas for new technologies to support this principle. And it's not just Chrome that can offer Privacy Sandbox proposals, it's any company or any developer who has an idea on this space. So here's the vision of the Privacy Sandbox. So it's to improve privacy while supporting publishers, advertisers, and user experiences that keep the web healthy. So let's dig into that a little bit. So on the left-hand side, you have this removal of cross-site user tracking, so covert tracking techniques such as browser fingerprinting, third-party cookies. But while on the right-hand side, adding in privacy-preserving technologies, and I know this is something that you're all thinking about when third-party cookies are phased out. And as you can see, it's meeting different use cases such as measurement and attribution, delivering relevant ads and content, and other use cases. So to give you a little bit of insight into how these technologies launch, they go through like three broad stages. The first is public discussion, and this is where someone has identified a use case and has a way and an idea of how it could be solved technologically. It goes into this public process through the W3C or GitHub. If you're not familiar with GitHub, this is like a developer forum. And this is where we have this developer discussion and back and forth on the API and the code itself, this technological code. This is really important to have this developer discussion before it moves on to the next stage. And I should mention that most of the APIs are in this stage at the moment, but we will see them moving into the next stage over the next few months and into next year. So the next phase is public testing and launch. So this is iterative test and learn. So one way that Chrome offers testing is origin trials. You may have heard about these in the news recently. And this is when Chrome needs this real world feedback on the code that's available. So this is where there's just a little bit of technological code that can be put on a site. It depends on the APIs. Origin trials are slightly different. And during this time, we expect the APIs to change, and we rely on this community feedback to ensure that the APIs, as they move through to the next stages, are in as good a shape as possible. And one thing I want to stress at this point is that Chrome remains committed to public global testing of all Privacy Sandbox APIs prior to launching them. Assuming this process goes well, it then moves into Chrome's stable and into the next phase where it's ready for adoption. So this is where it's stable, the code's in good shape, and it's well documented, and it's available for scaled use in live products. So these are the focus areas and the Chrome proposals. Some of them you're probably familiar with. I imagine some of the acronyms that you see here are jumping out at the page at you, but I wanted to make you aware that there are a number of different use cases and proposals that Chrome has put out there and will continue to do so. If you're following on privacysandbox.com, you may have seen the other APIs that are listed there. And I'm going to ask Eve to share in the chat a couple of links in a moment that might be interesting for you also. One of them is on measurement and attribution. I know this is a key use case. And we recently issued a primer that explains a little bit more about this API just to help you understand what's going on there. And another API is first-party sets. I think this is a really interesting API, and it could be if you, for example, have multiple brands that you own and operate. I encourage you to have a look at that. There's a little video. I think it's really helpful, and hopefully you find it useful as well. So these are the use cases, but obviously, as I mentioned, Chrome and others will be making further proposals. Just to recap, you may recall back in, I think it was June, we made a timing announcement for phasing out third-party cookies, and this kind of summarizes the key stages. So from now through to late 2022, we continue to develop, test, and start launching new technologies. Late 2022, these key technologies will launch in Chrome, and we see this early adoption. And then through to mid-2023, we see this broad ecosystem adoption. And then mid to late 2023, we see this gradual phase out of third-party cookies in Chrome. And I really want to emphasize the word gradual there. So I want to take a moment to address two common questions that we hear. The first, not on this slide, is about Google Ads. And if you work with Helma and other teams at Google, you know, what is their role in all of this? So Google Ads tests and implement the Privacy Sandbox solutions alongside the rest of the ecosystem. So if you're a Google Ads customer or a member of another team, and you want to understand how these changes affect the products and services you use, Google Ads will share updates on their progress with you. That's not something that myself and the Chrome team can advise on. And obviously, if they are offering testing as well, that's something that you'd hear from those teams. Second, we're often asked where other browsers stand in all of this. So from Chrome's perspective, cross-browser collaboration is really important. It's one of the reasons why we're working in public forums where other browsers participate. But I can't stress enough how important the voices of you all, you know, developers, publishers, and others are in informing browser decisions. And I strongly advocate that you come to these forums and share your interests where all of the browser vendors will hear your voice. So what does this mean for you? What are some practical steps you can take? So have a think about your use cases today. How do you rely on third-party cookies? And then have a think about the Privacy Sandbox proposals according to how they relate to you. So if you're an implementer, if you're in the blue bucket, that means you directly integrate them with the web products or services you support. So generally speaking, ad tech companies, for example, will be implementers for the ads APIs. In some cases, individual websites will be implementers, for example, for first-party sets. For each API, it's important to understand if you're an implementer and you need to do integration work directly, or you're a customer of vendor-provided services, in which you may not need to do any work at all. But if you are a customer, I would encourage you to speak to your ad tech vendor to understand their plans and how you can get involved. So I've got like 10 seconds to go. So this is just a quick summary. Please have a think about your use cases and how they are or might be impacted. Think about if you're an implementer, think about when you might wish to test, provide your input. If you're a customer, do ask your vendors about their plans and advocate for your needs. But regardless of your role, please do come and join the public dialogue either through W3C or GitHub, and monitor Chrome communication channels for progress updates. And these are 2 resources, and we'll put the links in the chat as well. Eve's going to take care of that for me. And also, we have a new developer blog, which I hope you all find useful, and stay tuned for more updates as we go through the year. Thank you so much for your attention.